How's it going, guys? So I'm going to try to get through this, this message, this video, some way, somehow. Got a lot of stuff going on in this house, renovation, just different things, Baruch Hashem. So, I want to talk to you guys about something that I've spoken about before. And it's actually good that I'm going to talk to you guys about it again because as I told you guys before, my main YouTube account was removed, was deleted.
And
was deleted. And so it's good that I'll make this video. And, you guys could hear kind of a newer version of what I spoke about before. So, some of you guys are probably wondering, again, it's like the classical question with what's been going on, these days, and you're wondering, sometimes you talk to people and you bring to people information which is readily available. Sometimes it's stuff that's been floating around for a while. Sometimes it's stuff that's new. But the point is, you seemingly bring people new information, and it's almost as if they are not able to, so to speak, install the file. It's kind of like what I told Ephraim yesterday. You're trying to install the file into people's heads, and their hard drive has, let's say 100 terabytes, but you're talking about something that's like already, the next level, petabytes, and they're just not able to handle that stuff. They just don't have I can't say bandwidth, they just don't have the capacity to hold all that information in. And not only to hold it, but to process it and make out of it what it means. Just, I had one of these people tell me, well, man, like, you need to speak to people who are trained to properly, be able to properly read and analyze the data. The data is pretty simple to analyze. It's not that difficult. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people like this who basically, they say, I don't have the bandwidth, I don't have the capacity. And what they do is, because of what I'm going to talk about, they basically have outsourced their brain. So what I want to do, guys, I want to read to you guys from an amazing thing that was written by a professor in Belgium, Professor Matthias Desmet. And he was talking about this to Rainer Fulmich, the attorney who's been kind of fighting all this stuff in, let's say in Germany and in Austria, German attorney. And basically, Professor Desmet gets into this whole thing of, the psychology of totalitarianism. And here's a guy actually who made notes about the video. See, he goes into basically what is actually really happening here and why it seems like people are not able to hear what you're saying and they're not able to process what you're saying. So he goes, okay. Desmet talked about four mass psychological factors that can become present in society which promote what's called mass formation, as he called it, for a totalitarian political system. Social isolation, lack of social bonds among the mass population, a lack of sense-making in the mass population, many people experiencing a lot of free-floating anxiety, a lot of free-floating psychological discontent in the population. By free-floating, he means a sense of I'm anxious or I'm feeling angry, depressed, disappointed in life, but I don't know why. Yeah, guys, I met so many people that, they really didn't know what to do with themselves, and they just wanted this thing to be over, so to speak, by any means necessary, right? They just want the anxiety to go away. I know plenty of people like this personally, and even if you come and you talk to them about, information that may run contrary to what the narrative is saying, they just say, well, like I come to them, for example, just give you an example. I come to them and I say, The Israeli study says that your natural, stuff after you get the what is 7 to 13 times stronger than the the thing they're pushing us to take. And then this person would say, but how long does that last? I say longer than the thing that they're pushing us to take. Obviously, that's not just obvious; it's actually in the data itself. And then they say, well, I don't know. It's just, you understand? It's just the person wants something to give him reassurance, and he's so used to the media, officialdom, authorities giving him reassurances. He can't even listen to his friend, somebody who actually gives a damn about him, as opposed to the media who doesn't, his friend who's giving him data and logic, right? He can't even bear himself to listen to, even though his friend's not a scientist. In my case, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not, I'm just reading data. I'm analyzing data. It's what I've been doing all my life. I worked in the stock market, analyzing numbers, analyzing things coming at me, the speed of sound, speed of light, so that kind of stuff. See, he says, Professor Desmet cited as evidence for this. My guess he was referring to Germany. The amount of antidepressants that were being taken by the population 2 to 3 years ago, hundreds of millions of doses. Yeah, Germans are all, they have crazy suicide rates. He put emphasis on the fact that the free-floating anxiety is the most painful psychological condition a person can experience. Right, my friends? There's nothing to latch on to that you can't figure out why am I anxious, right? He then discussed the triggers that can move the mass phenomenon towards totalitarianism. First, mass media in society provides a story, right? A narrative, like what we call a notion of a sequence of events that describes an object of anxiety, and at the same time puts forward a convincing strategy for dealing with this anxiety-causing phenomenon. This causes the free-floating anxiety to being experienced by the mass population to become defined in the object that is put before them. Now their anxiety is no longer seen as free-floating, it seems to have a cause. People are then willing to implement the strategy that they're given by the same people to deal with this object in an attempt to relieve themselves of the anxiety they've been feeling, no matter what the cost, right? Like, you can come to people and you can say, well, 20,000 people have died from, from issues, and they say, but how many people died from the thing? And how many people took the stuff, and how many people died? And then you come to them and say, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, 20,000 is already 20,000 too many. That's a lot of freaking people, right? We had another flu, swine flu, and 20 people died from the stuff that they were given, and the world went mad. For some reason, the world's not, on top of that, the people that died, most of them didn't have to die because they were denied treatments outside a hospital, inside a whatever it is, right? And you come and you tell them that, and they can't even. That's already the next level of just they can't even have that discussion with you. That's already you're trying to install, a Mac program into a IBM. It's just just nothing. Okay. Second, masses of people engage in what they see as an epic battle with this object of anxiety. This causes a new kind of social bond to emerge between these people who had been socially isolated. Meaning, these are the people who are together in this fight, right? They're like solidarity. Along with that, they collectively find a new kind of sense-making for themselves. It is not rigorous. It is not that rational, but it gives them a sense of making sense of the world they experience. Their life is then directed at battling the object of anxiety. It is through this that they find social connections with other people who are engaged in the same sense of fighting against its object. By the way, guys, the people who are also not taking the stuff are also, they're having meetups, people are, getting together. By us, it's more like we just want to feel like we're not going crazy, because, you know what I'm saying? Because you feel like you're going crazy, talking to some people. There's a dramatic flip from social isolation to a massive social connection through this sense of fighting a war against the cause of their collective anxiety. This then leads to what he described as mental intoxication, which is equal to mass hypnosis, right? These people are like, we got to take this thing, and it's like, it's important, it's this, it's important, whatever it is. So he says, mass formation is a form of hypnosis. If you guys feel like some of the people you're talking to, your friends and family, they look like they're hypnotized, or yesterday I told somebody, I feel like the stuff that you're taking has literally made you dumber or unable to process what I'm telling you, even though you're a mathematician and even though you're like an seemingly intelligent person, because this is what this is. Once this happens, it doesn't matter whether the story that this population has been given can be rationally, scientifically torn to pieces, which it can be, my friends. If the media is coming and saying, shmomikron is not susceptible to the thing that they're forcing us to take, but then on the same sentence they say, go take the thing to protect yourself from the thing, from shmomiron. My friends, this is like the ultimate doublespeak, which is easily dismantleable. But clearly no one is able to see it. I mean, it's just, I don't know. See, they will continue to conduct themselves as if the story is true no matter what. The reason is they will do anything to avoid going back. This is their fear, to their prior state of free-floating anxiety. Don't send me back to that. Don't send me back. They're just trying to, like a friend told me, I'm just trying to move on with life, man. I'm just trying to go forward with life. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to go here, I have to go there. I need this to, I won't be able to go here, I won't be, that's it. Forget it. Can't. Where it had no definition, identity, or discernible source in their previous social isolation. They fear, they fear that if they accept anything counter to what brought them out of their prior state, they will go back, back to their, sorry, a lot of construction here, there's like dust floating up. They will go back to their prior state. The motive is as simple as pleasure over pain, or alleviation, let's say. It's not pleasure. Searching for truth is irrelevant. My friends, you know what kills me is that the people who are like this, a lot of people are actually truth otherwise with other issues. They are actually truth seekers. They see everything that the media and the politicians are doing. For some reason, when it comes to this issue, like I said before many times, they can't see it. They can't apply the same standards for this issue. So, this Met said, the crucial matter is acknowledging this painful state of anxiety, and then searching for how we got into this state of social isolation, lack of social bond, and lack of sense-making, which led to free-floating anxiety and massive psychological discontent. He crystallized this mass social phenomenon as a symptomatic solution to what's a very real psychological problem. In his contention, and I'm sympathetic to this point of view, that the sense of crisis over Shmovid is really much more of a societal and psychological crisis than a biological one. He said that mental intoxication that's experienced leads to a narrowing of attention, to only pay attention to what the story they've been given tells them is important, as opposed to me coming with some documents, obscure documents, and which are not really that obscure, from Johns Hopkins University, and granted it's called Harvard Pilgrim, but it's got scientists from Harvard University, doctors, right? This explains why these people only see the harm done by Shmovid, for example, and are oblivious to the collateral damage done by the stuff. They are also unable to feel empathy for the victims of lockdowns or victims of the stuff that they're taking, right? Well, it's very sad, but Well, it's very sad, but it's like, oh, that's so sad. If I show them a person, like somebody that I know, literally, their corpse, well, that's very sad that your so-and-so died, but zero empathy. He empathized, this is not from selfishness, but from the effects of this intoxication, the mass formation, as he's termed it. It's like they're just blocking. It's a blockout, right? He said this effect is so powerful, it so focuses their attention that you can diminish their physical well-being and they won't even notice it. Yeah. Guys, I said, a friend of mine told me her sister had to pull over the side of the road because she was getting heart palpitations after two times of taking. And the sister will still take the third, because why? Because I can't be a pariah in my nice little wealthy community in some area of the country, and my kid needs to go to school. I'm going to give it to my kid. I can't just pull him out of school, my friends, okay? This goes back to what he said about how it's a kind of hypnosis. People who are hypnotized can be injured and can be oblivious to the pain. Yeah, you ever see a hypnotized person on the stage? You can smack them and you won't feel anything, right? But these people they're not feeling anything now. They're going to feel it soon, okay? A third action that takes place in mass formation is the population at large becomes intolerant of dissonant voices. You're an anti-this. You're an they label, right? I imagine this is because it's seen as interfering with the sense of social connection and the intoxication it produces, right? Intoxication, let's use that term lightly. Again, the people in the throes of this mass phenomenon do this because they fear going back to their prior state of free-floating anxiety and social disconnection. He indicated that this mass formation is not widely known among psychologists. They are not aware of it, and so they are not aware of it happening in their world today. Desmet was asked by Fulmich, the lawyer, what characterizes the totalitarian leaders? What kind of person does this? Now let's get into Who does this? Why would they do it? Desmet said they don't have the same kind of mentality as common criminals, even though their ideology is criminal. They know how to follow their society's social rules. You guys, you see, like, these guys are going on TV, they're talking nice, everything is official, everything is nice, everything is, there's no like, oh, everybody into the camps, everybody, I mean, Australia is kind of an exception. But most of the time, it's very, see, it says, when they are in power, they make up their own rules for the society and follow them, right? So these guys, they're like these officials, nobody voted them in. They're been, one guy's been there for 40 years, another person's been there for how many long? Another guy's like not even a doctor, he's just somebody people know because he made a operating system, but he's been like involved in smacks for years, and he's a known Malthusian, but nobody cares about that, right? So they've just like, okay, it's a shmandemic, right? So now we're just going to circumvent any constitution that we have, any laws that we already have that like don't allow for certain things to happen, for certain laws to be enacted. And they're just going to make the rules as they go along, but they're going to follow those rules, right? So he said they're true believers in the ideologies, and they believe that they are creating a paradise. Yeah, they believe that there needs to be less people on this planet. They don't believe in Puru. They don't believe in Hashem, for sure. Mr. Mousy doesn't believe in Hashem. He was given a humanist award, whatever it is. They feel like it's acceptable to sacrifice a portion of their own population to realize their paradise, my friends. This is basically, these guys are a palatable version of the gerbil, Dr. Gerbil. Okay. See, two books he recommended people, and I've read to you guys quotes from these books, or one of the books by Hannah Arendt, The Origins of Totalitarianism. He said that from what's been observed of such mass formation events, it's impossible to wake up masses of people who are under the influence of it, unless by some catastrophic event. Like my friend always says, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, right? You need some sort of like supernatural event to wake them up. Oh my God. However, he also said, free speech is extremely important for tamping down the severity of the crimes committed under these conditions. And he said you can make hypnosis less deep by continuing to talk, and that's what we all have to do. Yeah, guys. I mean, I just try to pepper in to some of these people, like every once in a while, like little. At this point, it's like, drip, drip. It's not like I used to do a thing where I would just bombard people with like all this, again, petabytes of information, and they're not able to absorb. But if you like, and sometimes they'll say something that they notice, and then you kind of like, you say kind of like, you validate their thing, right? Because you're basically validating what you hope that they would, come around to seeing on their own, right? One little component of it, right? So like yesterday that happened. I said, yeah, and you see this lines up with this document and da. And then they start looking at the thing and they start to understand slowly, they start to pull out of this state, right? Here it says, Dr. Justice Hoffman, an attorney, made the point that what makes totalitarian regimes so attractive, just 1 second, guys, in the short term. 1 second, gotta look this guy. Hello, sir. Yeah, that's right. You here for the lecture? He wants to hear some stuff. We have a furry friend here. He wants to hear some intelligent and interesting things. See, he made the point that makes totalitarian regimes so attractive in the short term is that totalitarians create very orderly societies. He said this makes it difficult to talk to people about the danger of such a regime because they say, look, there's no chaos. We still have rule of law, supposedly. Everything's fine. See, like you talk to people, they're like, we're not in the Soviet Union. What are you talking about? We're not in the... What are you talking about? You still have your car in your house. Nobody's sending anybody to this. I mean, look at Australia, but that's just, who cares about Australia? They're over there, right? Such regimes have a very strict rule of law. He contended they create more law, more agencies, more policing. Desmet disagreed, saying that there's a distinction. Totalitarians do not enforce law. They impose rules, and they're rules that they make up from moment to moment, right? They say one thing, and then they double speak and triple speak, quadruple speak, quintuple speak, right? There's no consistency in either the rules nor in how they are created, my friends. My friends, it's very, very easy to sit down and just dismantle this whole timeline that they've been, imposing on us, right? Desmet talked about a typical distribution with the mass phenomenon. 30% of the people are taken with a story that explains their sense of anxiety, and they create an atmosphere of fear around contradicting the story. Another 40% quietly do not accept the story, but are too afraid to publicly contradict it. Right? And there's another 25 to 30 who do not accept the story and speak out. My friends, that's what I basically have found. I found that around 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 3 people I talk to are the people that are, so to speak, with me, my kind. Another bunch of people I've spoken to, these are like the middle, who basically agree, but they're just kind of like, they're not active. They're very, very passive with it. Or a lot of people, it's what I call the regrettables. The people have taken two things, two of these things, and regret. And some people took it in the third, even though they wanted to postpone it, job, whatever it is, this and that and the other. Okay, and then you have these like 20, it says 20%, 30% that were just like totally enthralled, right? So, guys, what does this mean? It means that 70% of the people are not down with this, and we need to get, like I always say, you need to strengthen the lions, right? You need to find those 40%, the ones that are quietly not accepting but are too afraid to speak out, and you need to mahazik them, and we need to get them with us, right? Just to be active, basically. He says there was some speculation about what kind of people were resistant to mass formation, the totalitarian drive, and those who are most amenable to it. This Met seemed more sure about the people who are most likely to join the mass formation, that they are people who believe that they are doing everything to help the others, my friends, right? Yeah, I've heard this many times, right? Don't be so selfish. This is for, we have to care about other people. There's other people around us. It's not like there's, we live on an island or whatever. Like my friend Denise says, time to buy an island and go live there. We don't live on an island. We can't, right? See, he says everything is done out of a sense of citizenship. They do it for the collective, for the community. They're convinced of that. That's also what Schmittler said. Schicklgruber said, I expect every German that he sacrifices his life without hesitation. He said, for the German people. That is what Stalin said as well. My friends, I can attest to this. He did say that. Okay? And you can go look this up. Filmich pointed out, the lawyer, that it's been his experience that people who have less formal education but work a trade are very educated on weighty issues and are far more open to having discussions about them than are academics. De Smet responded that Gustave Le Bon saw this in the 19th century, that the higher degree of education you have, the more susceptible you are to mass formation. Guys, you know what's interesting though? Somebody did that study where the people who are most normal are the people with PhDs and the people with high school. So everybody in the middle are the ones that are susceptible to this stuff, which is interesting. With this guy saying that the higher degree, the people that are like all hoity-toity. So Vivian Fisher, an attorney, asked why that is. Desmond said that it comes down to what is seen as the purpose of education, whether it's an exercise in learning to think for yourself or whether it's to convince you to think about everybody else before yourself. Wadgar added, you learn to obey, right? If you're in university, Frank and I spoke about this, people in medical school, you're just obeying what the protocols that you're being taught, right? Right? They got back to the question of what do we do about this? This met through another activity on the table. Humor is important to breaking the spell of mass formation. He said that mass formation relies upon everything recognizing one authority, right? So it's good to send your friends kind of funny things about what's happening, right? Like memes and videos and TikToks and whatever it is. The more that someone gives authority to a figure, the more susceptible they are to being hypnotized by that figure. He said it's important for the humor to be gentle and polite. If it's too aggressive, it arouses the aggression of the masses. This kind of a gentle, polite humor is a good antidote to mass formation, because it subtly delegitimizes the authority without arousing the aggressive response from the masses. Desmet came back to the topic of cause, though, saying that even if many people came out of their hypnosis in the current sense of crisis, they will fall prey to some other sense of crisis in the future, and go right back into this behavior of mass formation, because what causes this behavior is a sense of anxiousness, disappointment in life, lack of social connection, and lack of sense-making. He says it's his educated opinion that a root cause is our culture's materialistic, mechanistic view of ourselves that causes destruction of social structures. Yeah, guys, people just want to get back to the thing that the nonsensical BS thing that they were doing before this, guys, and part of the thing I analyze myself, I never really was into that, so I don't feel like I'm losing anything. People are like, you can't go to restaurants anymore, you won't be able to go here. This one woman was like, pretty soon they're just going to lock you out of everything. I'm like, lady, I don't care, okay? I locked them out before they locked me out, okay? What did Groucho Marx used to say? I don't want to be part of any club that won't have me as a member, right? And the feeling ourselves that life makes sense. If you hold the belief that you're just a machine, then by definition it implies that life is senseless. He asked, what's a sense of life that is reduced to just a little part of the larger machine of the universe? Yeah, you wake up, you go to work, you go to sleep, that's it. If that's all we are, then one can reasonably ask, what is the point of having meaningful social relations? You don't have to follow ethical principles Because the machine governs what happens and doesn't happen. There is no right or wrong way for anything to happen. It just is and will be. This concept destroys one's psychological energy, as he put it, one sense of social connectedness, morale basically, and you end up in this free-floating anxiety he's talked about. Waterg added that in this concept of being a small piece in the bigger machine, you also get the sense that you're a burden for the machine. It doesn't need you. If you fall away, there's another guy to replace you. He said the healthier materialist concept is that you are the machine. You're a wonder. You're special. You're not a small cog in the larger mechanism. You are the universe that's worth something. My friends, this is Hasidut. This is Rabbi Nachman. The day you were born is the day Hashem decided that the world could not live without you. It sounds corny, it sounds cheesy, but my friends, it's true. It's Hasidus. It's Kabbalah, it's Hasidus, it's Judaism, it's Torah, right? Fisher prompted Desmet to take the long view that 40% silent majority will eventually run the other way from this totalitarianism, because a constant in history is that totalitarianism is always self-destructive, right? These guys, these guys are just going to keep going and going and going to the point where even the silent majority is going to be like, okay, guys, okay, enough, we're done, right? 30% that are hypnotized will never snap out of this delusion, no matter how much destruction happens as a result of their actions and decisions. Fisher asked whether any sort of positive reward bestowed by the authority on the compliant was necessary to get people to buy into totalitarianism. Right? Like, here's a candy, right? Desmet said that a Laband observed that the masses prefer harsh and strict leaders who are cruel to their own people. I'm not sure what he meant by harsh and cruel, but it hasn't been my experience that the majority prefers what I think harsh and cruel means. Fisher noted at the end of the discussion that they were live streaming on a bunch of video services, including YouTube. But that YouTube took down its live stream, that says a lot about them, doesn't it, my friends? Hence, I'm talking to you again, right? I'll end with a nice summary of Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, which covers a couple of the same points. See, this guy's talking about, this is a video that he made. He adds, Dr. Peter McCullough, by the way, if you guys check out, seriously, I recommend it, check out the podcast on Joe Rogan's Spotify, Dr. Peter McCullough, amazing. It's like almost like over 2.5 hours. He's talking about all the stuff he's experienced in the medical field, and, basically the thing that stood out to me, guys, is when he said, even after all this time, we have all of these talented doctors and all of these amazing places, medical schools and hospitals, high-end places. There isn't one place out of all these places that has an official pre-hospital setting treatment option. Not even one, my friends. Pre-hospital. Hospital, yes. Pre-hospital at home, my friends, it's been almost 2 years. Not one. Not one. Not in UCLA. Not in Johns Hopkins, not in Mayo Clinic, not in New York, nowhere, my friends. If it is done, it's done under the surface, under the table, officially, my friends, not one. America supposedly has the best in terms of quality of care in the world. I'm not going to get into the whole cost, whatever. Not one. Guys, okay, see, Dr. Peter McCullough, who's been treating COVID patients, has said, Shmovid, has been observing what Dr. Desmet describes with fellow doctors and other professionals. He calls it a trance. I encourage you to listen to what he says in this video, because he illustrated what Desmet talking about. My friends, again, it goes back to my friend who tells me his doctor friend is just seeing guys like us, Has v'Shalom, whatever it is, and in the hospital, and I said, I feel bad for the guy, but he's just being used. He's being psyoped by the people who are above him, by his bosses, my friends. This is what is happening. Again, honestly, guys, this whole thing speaks to the greater strategy by what we call the Sitra Achra, to basically make us forget about, or make us not rely on Hashem. Because people, the ultimate antidote, my friends, to this free-floating anxiety is Hashem, is to know that Hashem is in control, and to know that these people are nothing. These officials, these institutions, these people are basically nothing and no one. They are only worth as much as they say they're worth, which is basically nothing, right? And they have these titles and these names and these donors and these buildings and this and that. And you want to say, well, how come you're discounting the talent of people who are like amazing scientists and amazing people who have been researching things for years and years and years? My friends, again, This is my problem is not with those people, my friends. Those people are being used for nefarious purposes. They have been their talents, unfortunately, very, very good people, very hardworking people, have been weaponized by psychotic pieces of garbage, my friends. They have been weaponized, this time without their knowledge. It's one thing, when Schmittler hires a guy like Albert Speer, who's down for the cause, and in this case it was architecture to design buildings and whatever it is, and he knows and everybody knows and everybody's for the cause. But my friends, these doctors, these very, very professional, talented people have no idea of the plans of their bosses and of their overlords. They are just going because it's very exciting, it's very cool, it's very new, it's very this, it's very that. It's offered as the only solution because the actual solutions were squashed way in the beginning of this thing, my friends. That is the scariest part. That is the scariest part. And on top of that, people who are professional as well, who are also been working their whole lives and this and that and the other, who come and say, here's a problem here, those people have been silenced, my friends. This is the ultimate psyop. There's nothing else to say. And hopefully, my friends, the rest of the 40% can join the 30% of us, and we can be done with this, guys. B'ezrat Hashem. We just have to daven, and we have to really daven to Hashem and rely on Hashem, and that's the only institution, so to speak, and the only name, and the only kind of title. It's not even a title. It's just, it's the thing that created us and sustains life and gives life, my friends. More so than any mousy and any official can do, right? That's basically it, my friends. That is basically it. All right. So, Hashem, I'll be able to post this somewhere else, and I'll talk to you guys soon.